for aliens,
2, 3, 4.
reptilian agenda. What video you wanna watch for flick?
It doesn't car.
Hmm?
You can say what you want.
I saw myself in an alternative universe.
I wanna.
In an
Ooh, people hot stuff. I wanna hear the people honest.
10 minutes.
10 minutes of that shit.
How can you stop watching that? God.
No, I think it's not half an hour.
Hi everyone. Today's paranormal story time, the same as all my other ones, happened when I was in a meditative state with my eyes open. So it's an experience that I had, which I don't actually have a label for or name. I wasn't trying to do it. It just happens to me sometimes when I'm meditating and if I leave my eyes open. But what I do know is I wasn't asleep because it's not actually possible scientifically to sleep with your eyes open. You go into more of a trance-like state. So in this instance, I was lying on my bed, relaxed and in a meditative state, when suddenly I looked to the corner of my eye and I realised that things were changing. So it was almost like someone had taken a curtain and was putting it around the room and changing the scene. And then I began to hear noises, really loud noises, which are not what I usually hear in my neighbourhood. It sounded like stamping of feet, people shouting, just really loud noises, and cars tooting. So as the scene changed, I then found myself walking along the street, and when I looked down, I could see my feet wearing sneakers. And I never wear sneakers. So I stopped and then suddenly realised that I was somebody else. And I knew this somebody else was myself, but it was a different me. It was an American me. And at first, I felt a bit shocked because I felt like I was two people in one body. And then I began to get really excited because I began to hear this other Lindy's memories. I began to know what she'd been.
No more video buffering.
I think I'm so horny.
No, people see, I would love to have an experience like this, the comments. I just find the videos and I love them. Do you have any tips on how to meditate with your eyes open?
No, I just want to see her.
More story time, please, Lindy.
Like I knew it was
What's her name?
America. I knew that.
Lindy,
and I knew that I was on my way to the shops. And I knew that there were rations. So I had...
Lindy? Hopefully everyone can agree that blonde Lindy's better.
some coupons in my pocket in order to get food.
There's no such thing as a peaceful
When I looked
neighborhood.
around,
She's in a
I could
peaceful
see lots of soldiers running up and down the street, some of them just standing at corners, holding rifles. And I knew that something had happened in North America and all the states had ununited. So it wasn't the United States of America anymore. I was in a separate state, which was a separate country. And I can't remember what the name of that state was, though, because they'd all changed. They weren't as they were when they were united. I also knew that there were loads of military personnel on the streets because we were at war with our neighbouring states. So there were people trying to come in, I think probably to take over or something like that. And that's why our army was patrolling and making sure that everything was in order. I remember in my mind, I saw a picture of the Statue of Liberty and it made me feel sad. Well, made the Lindy who was in that reality feel sad. But with me, I was more fascinated because this Statue of Liberty was much bigger and it was also more of a pale blue colour. And I was walking along and inside there was like Lindy, me, who felt really excited because I was in a different country and I was looking around and getting really fascinated by what I was seeing. And then there was a Lindy who obviously lived there and she had a sadness about her. And I couldn't quite access her thoughts to know what she was sad about, but I know she wasn't a happy person. And I remember coming to a zebra crossing, and I stopped.
These videos are
And
making people
as the
crazy.
cars were going by, I
These
noticed
videos?
that they
These
were
kind of videos are
slightly
making people turn
different from the
mental.
cars we have now. So all I can say is they looked more
Yeah,
more
people say
high-tech
magic's not
than
real.
the ones we have
But yeah,
now.
people say these
And
things
then
are real.
when the lights changed, I
It's
crossed
surprising
over,
what they
and
believe
then
in.
in front of me, I saw someone from behind who looked really familiar. I started walking
What the fuck?
slightly quicker to catch up with her. I could see it was a female and around the same build as me, and there was just something really familiar about her. And I was walking behind her, and
Did she rape her? She rape her.
And as I walked faster, I noticed that she began to pick up the pace as well. So we were both walking quite quickly down the street. And then she turned a corner, and it was more like an alleyway, and continued walking. And I was fascinated, thinking, should I call out, or
Fascinated though.
I can't quite place who it is.
She's fascinated
And then
with
suddenly,
what?
You want to ask
she
her own
stopped
self
and
different.
turned around, and I realised that it was me.
Mhm.
I'd been following myself, except this me was quite disheveled. She looked like she was homeless and just looked really unkempt and a bit dirty. I could see her fingernails were quite dirty, and she just stood there and stared at me, and I stared at her.
So she's saying she can see
And then finally she spoke,
herself in
and she
different
said,
realms
"Oh,
with the
so
same
you
name
found
but
me."
as different person.
But sounded
That's what
a
she's
bit
saying in
annoyed,
these
not
videos.
particularly happy
Yeah, by
about that.
meditating,
And I just
she
said,
can see into
"Yeah, I
different
have."
universes.
And then I noticed that she
Mortal
had
Kombat then.
obviously the same voice as me. She also had
I
an North
don't
American
want that.
accent.
She can get hurt.
She then said, "Well, you may as well come in then," and started walking towards an entrance in one. There was like a door
I
in
don't
an
get it.
alleyway,
It's just she's scared.
and
Though.
she started with a
Like,
padlock though, not a
You're
normal house
meditating
door.
and you're
And she
saying
started fiddling
you're
around
in a
with the
different
padlock.
realm, but your body
And
is there.
for a second, I stood there and I thought, "This is odd."
Then you make me think of horror.
And then I just thought, "Yeah, but I'm not afraid of myself."
Spirit
What
realm
am I
and
going to
then
do to
travel
myself?
and the
So,
body's right there.
I then
Wherever.
followed her into what I'm assuming it was her house. When I got in there, it was quite dirty. It was more like she'd converted somebody's garage into living accommodation. And she said to me, "Oh, sit down," and pointed at a sofa, and then said, "I'm going to get you some coffee." And I just said, "Yep, okay." And she disappeared into an adjoining room. And so I decided to use that opportunity to have a look around. And I looked at, she had loads of bookshelves, so she likes reading like I
How
do.
did she get a lot of
And
views? What
it was
tax
just
she
a mess
used?
basically though. There was just things